For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
We'll get started. You're no stranger to how we do things on the podcast.
We've done this before. Is this the third time?
Yep, third time.
Yeah.
It's been almost a year, but it is the third time.
There you go. Yeah, it's been a little bit, but okay.
So
It's all good.
So you're excited about the Chiefs? They play tomorrow, or do they play Sunday?
They play on Sunday, so Kansas City is just crazy right now with the Chiefs, right? Yeah, so good times had it. They had a phenomenal. I don't know if you got a chance to check out that game last week, but that phenomenal football game, and I've seen a lot of football in my life, man, but I will have to tell you. That was the best football game I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. It's I consider myself a football fan in general, but when it comes to the playoffs, it's really, if my Bears aren't in it, it's really hard for me to watch until the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think we talked about this before, but I'm a Raiders guy. I've been a Raiders fan since I was a baby, and the Raiders, the Raiders are nothing but drama. That's what they do. And so they didn't make it through. They didn't pull it off. So, the typical Raiders form, there's never a normal Raiders game. But they had an inadvertent whistle and, it's typical drama, so it's still kind of fun though, but to watch the Chiefs is from a football fan standpoint, especially if somebody really likes offense, they are phenomenal and they are fun to watch. Yeah.
Because somebody was asking me at work the other day who I thought was going to go to the Super Bowl and who was going to win. And it's like, honestly, looking at the four teams that are there, from a purely football perspective and a purely storytelling perspective, you can't lose with any of these matchups.
Exactly.
Because you got like San Francisco, their quarterback, Garoppolo trying to get out from under Brady's shadow. You could play up that angle. You got Burrow, the young gun, trying to prove that he's worth all the hype. You got LA, Stafford trying to prove he can win the big one, and then of course you got Mahomes just trying to prove that he wasn't, or he's not a fluke,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, they it ought to be a heck of a playoff series for sure, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've been now that I'm retired, that's kind of what I do during football season is watch football, and so I've really been looking forward to it. So. Yeah. We'll see how Sunday goes. I have my picks, but we'll see how well that goes.
Yeah, for sure. And since we're just kind of rolling, we're going to just kind of continue going. I'm not going to do my normal intro, but it's just one of those deals where it's like, I like to think that whoever wins the LA game is going to kind of be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. But then again, you look at Kansas City and they're playing Cincinnati, right? It's Kansas City and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. It's to me, it's so evenly balanced one way or the other.
Yeah, I think that if the Chiefs win Sunday, they'll probably be the favorite in the Super Bowl just because of their balance, But I expect them. So I might as well just throw it out there, and you guys can drill on me all you want. But I expect them to play the Rams.
Yeah.
And the Rams are a very, very, very good defensive team. So it'll be fun.
And the reason that, if the Rams win, or make it to the Super Bowl, they almost are going to have that unfair advantage of essentially being the home team.
Exactly. Yeah,
which
they have that. Yeah.
which is kind of funny. I made the joke. I was like, man, if it happens a second year, they might get away with it. But if it happens again next year, where the home, like whatever stadium they're at, and that
Yeah.
team ends up making it to the Super Bowl again, they're going to start calling they're going to start crying foul play or something because
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting if the Chiefs got there because they played the Bucks in their home stadium in the Super Bowl and lost. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
maybe the Chiefs would be the one that called foul. Who knows, right?
yeah, for sure. So glad to have you back on the podcast. It's been little under a year. I think it was March because I was trying to figure out the last time you were on, and I think it was last March, right as you were getting ready to release what was the first single of the year? A Thousand Wild Horses, maybe?
Yeah. The Thousand Wild Horses came out right around in there. And with the EP that I put out that's called Who Are You, Who Am I, we had 4 different single releases. The first one was the tune called More Than Meets the Eye that came out right before the election, the presidential election last time. We pushed that one through the studio kind of rapid. And then we came back with A Thousand Wild Horses, and we followed that up with another single called The World's Foremost Authority on Everything.
Yeah.
And then the single that's currently out right now is the title cut from the EP called Who Are You, Who Am I?
And these 4 songs, is that essentially the EP, or is there a 5th?
Yeah, no, that's the EP. This is the project that I put together during COVID, right? So all the writing and recording and all that happened during COVID, and that kind of slows the process a little bit, when you're limited on bringing everybody into the studio all at one time, and you're kind of piecemealing the whole thing. So hopefully we'll get past it. We're not there yet, but hopefully we will. Yeah.
Yep. I had a little bit of a COVID scare this morning myself. It was I hadn't been feeling well the last few days, and we at work they've had the last 2 or 3 weeks they sent us home pretty much ever since we got back from the holiday break. Our COVID numbers at work started going up, and they're like, all right, everybody that doesn't need to be here, go home we're quarantining for 2 weeks. And we'll let you back in the office at the end of the month, or beginning of February, whatever it is. And I woke up the last few days, I'd been feeling a little, not myself, my normal self. And my boss was like, you realize we got a big shoot tomorrow. I need you to go get a COVID test right now to go make sure that you can be on the shoot. Yeah. I'm like, all right. And so I'm trying to find all these COVID testing facilities, and I'm going to go sit in line for 4 hours at a COVID testing facility. I'm like, I'm not taking a PTO day to get tested. It's just not what I'm going to do. And luckily I went to Target. I found a rapid test. They had one left. I'm like, perfect. $7 and I'm good.
Yeah. I haven't had it. I kind of anticipate that everybody's going to get it, but I haven't had it to date. But I've had several friends and some of my family members got it. My daughter's had it, and my granddaughter, my 5-year-old granddaughter, got it as well. So,
yeah. Luckily, I've been in the same camp. I haven't gotten it that I know of. I haven't tested positive, at least. But mostly for the last few years, or the last year and a half, I've felt pretty good, other than last few days. And it could just be the January smudge. Who know, like it is still January, it is flu season. So
yeah. I always think of January and February as the depression months, because in Kansas City it gets kind of cold and funky here.
Oh yeah.
So but I've been lucky, I haven't gotten it yet. So
good. How's the weather up by you in Kansas City right now? I know it's cold because where my sister lives, it was like negative 20 some odd degrees in central Indiana.
Yeah, no, we haven't had that yet. And I think today it was like 15 Fahrenheit, something like that. But we got a little bit of snow, but not a lot yet, But Kansas City is I always call it the city of threes, right? We have 3 weeks of really, really hot, nasty, humid, funky stuff in the summer, and we usually get 3 weeks of really nasty, funky stuff in the winter. And so it's been cold, but it hasn't been snow and cold and ice and all that. So it's not been bad so far.
Good. And same here, Central Texas. But next week they're saying get ready because we're about to get knocked in the face again. It's like,
oh yeah.
Cool. Another repeat of last year.
Hopefully not, right? Hopefully not. Hopefully your grid stays up and all that, right?
Yeah, so. For sure. You know how Texas is. But so you finally got the EP done, released out. Do you plan on like printing it as a hard copy EP, or do you just kind of see it streaming? You know, what's kind of your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, we make hard copies of all of the projects that we have, primarily because when I send them out to radio stations, there are a lot of radio stations that actually want a hard copy.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of places are still doing the MP3 thing and you know, streaming and all that. But I'm a fan of the hard copy files because they sound better. You know, the MP3 algorithms that they use to compress the music, I can hear the difference just myself. And I don't know if anybody else can, but I certainly can. So when we press them, you know, we send out, I forget how many, 250 hard copies, you know, to radio stations, and then, you know, they play it off of that, so which is better for me. So,
yeah. Well, and what a lot of people don't realize, or at least people that aren't in the business, aren't like actively listening to music on a daily basis, MP3 is a lossless format. So every time you send off that file to somebody, it degrades itself. And so you email it to somebody 100 times, it's gonna sound pretty rough. So
yeah, you know, but it's pretty amazing technology MP3s are, you know, because they the algorithms and the compression that they use actually create what they think you want to hear.
Yeah.
So it doesn't replicate all the music, right? Your brain certainly wants to hear certain things, right, in a song, and the MP3s kind of let your brain imagine that you actually heard it, but you didn't. So it's pretty interesting technology, really.
Yeah.
I think we got it from the aliens. So.
Yeah, probably. Probably. You brought up the Raiders, and of course you're drinking out of your Raiders mug right there.
Well, of course I am. Yeah.
Now, is that a Oakland Raiders mug, or is that a Vegas Raiders mug?
It's a Raiders mug. The Raiders are the world's team. You know, a lot of people, Dallas Cowboy wants to be America's team. Chiefs are trying to steal that mantra from them. The Raiders are worldwide. So yeah, it's the world's team. And I haven't gotten out to see a game yet in Vegas, but I want to go out there. I had a friend went, and he told me, he said, Bill, the stadium looks like the Death Star from Star Wars. It's fantastic. And so next season I'll get out, I hope, and see a game out in Vegas. It'd be fun.
For sure. I was hoping to make it up there for when the Bears played them this past season, because there's shortly after my mom passed, my dad was on this like, I want to go travel and I want to go see things, and he had this plan of going to see the Bears in various different places. Like, cool. He flew up to Chicago for their home opener, and him and my sister went, and I'm sitting out here in Texas like, I don't get an invite. It's like, no. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And then he was like, I'll take you to a game later in the season. They're out your way somewhere. And I'm like, well, we can go to Oakland, or not Oakland, Vegas. And he's like, okay. And the tickets were like insanely expensive. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to go watch them play the Raiders.
I have a neighbor, actually. My neighbor is a guy that has, I've forgotten how many sets of season tickets to the Chiefs that he has, but let's just say there are a few, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he sells them to friends and that kind of thing, you know, so that they could all go to the games together. And he called me the other day and he said, Bill, I've got tickets to the playoff game. Do you want to go? And I said, no, thanks, man. I really appreciate the offer, but I got the best seat in the house. I got an 80-inch TV and a baseball leather couch, and I'm good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, I haven't made it to a NFL or a Chicago Bears game. I've never been to a Chicago Bears game. I've been to an NFL game. I've been to a Chicago football game, but I've never been to a Chicago Bears game. So
there's other football in Chicago other than the Bears?
No, you remember in 2001 they had the XFL. And
oh yeah.
Chicago had a team. So my church group went to the one and only playoff game that Chicago was in. Cool. It was like $15 or, you know, whatever it was. And it was like, okay, cool. It was at Soldier Field, you know, it was a good time. But that's always kind of a fun trivia. It's like, I've been to an NFL game, I've been to a football game in Soldier Field, but never a Chicago Bear game.
Oh, there you go. You know, I see that the USFL is coming back. You know, after the NFL season, they're going to have the USFL season. So that was fun. I remember the USFL when you know, they were trying to go head to head with the NFL and really did a quite the job of inflating a lot of people's salaries is what they really accomplished. So, you know, Jim Kelly got a bunch of money from him. Steve Young got a bunch of money from him. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought that from February on would be like the best time to play football, because like in most of the cities that have franchises, after February, it's kind of like, all right, you're in the good time of year. Like, other than maybe like Minnesota or something, but you know, after February, it's not that bad. So
yeah, but then spring training starts and you got baseball and you know, all that. They don't want to go head to head with each other, I'm sure. So
that's true. I guess I'll take that.
Yeah, there you
go. So as far as musically going on, EP, what else are you working on? What's kind of the plans moving into 2022?
Well, you know, the plans for 2022 are fluid. Mm-hmm. Is that a good way to say it, right?
Yeah.
So with our friend Miss COVID and you know, how that's working out, I have too many friends that are doing tours, and about half of their shows are getting canceled. And you know, that if you understand the finances of doing a tour, you can't have half your shows canceled and be able to make any money, right? So fortunately, you know, because of my corporate career that I did before I did this, you know, I don't rely on music to make money. Nice that it does.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm not complaining, right? But I don't rely on it. So I'm not going to plan a tour until April, May, something like that is when I'll start working on it, and probably do a tour in the fall, spring. If COVID, what's the latest one? So we've got Omicron now. They've got Omicron B1 or Omicron B3 or something. And here comes the next one. You know,
just heard about it this morning, and I'm like, and hopefully it seems to be diluting itself as it kind of evolves, which is a good thing. And then, as you know, it'll be the flu essentially.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember if it was you I was talking to. It may have been somebody asked me when COVID first came out. They asked me my opinion of it, you know. And of course, none of us
that definitely wasn't me. I don't normally ask people's opinions about COVID.
No, okay. Well, my opinion is a little bit different than most. I think that you know, I'm a bit of a hippie. You know, and I think COVID may be Mother Nature's way of saying we're done with you guys. You know, that was my original thought. Of course, now we know way different, right? But when it first came out and nobody knew what it was and how to deal with it and all that, everybody was coming up with their theories, and some of them were maybe a little far out there, you know. Yeah. So I just decided to go with that, you know, do a hippie thing. Yeah,
that's fair. That's very, very fair. You know, I don't know, COVID, like, it's been so long now. It's just kind of like coming up on 2 years. We're like 6 weeks away from 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of over it at this point.
Yeah, me too. I wish it would go away and you know, we could get back to some semblance of normalcy, so that a lot of people, you know, have really changed their lives because of COVID. And it would be nice if we could get back to where there was some semblance of normal, or at least a new normal, right? Yeah. But the way that it is right now, it's just awful hard to we talked about a tour. I mean, you plan tours 6, 8, 10 months in advance, and so you're like trying to read the tea leaves, of what's going to come down, and it's just not a good feeling. So stuff. Yeah, but I am going to go back. I've got some new tunes, and so I'll be back in the studio. I just booked some time in March, and we'll be back in the studio creating all new stuff again. So that I can do while we're still questioning if it makes any sense to hit the road. So
for sure, that's really cool. It's good. Like, as much as given though COVID's still very much a thing, it's good that there are some things that you can get back to normal with, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah. And, really, Tom, I think we've talked about this before. I'm really kind of a studio nerd anyway, and that's really where I like that. The touring and the live is all great, and it's great to see people and fans and all that. But when it comes right down to it, just from a pure enjoyment factor, I really like the studio. Mm-hmm. And so, get some new stuff and, get back in and work on that and get that stuff all produced up. That'll be fun. That'll be a good time.
For sure. So of this new stuff that you have written, or that you have ready to record, is it stuff that's all been written during the pandemic as well? Is that?
Yeah. So we did the 4-song, the EP thing, that we did during the pandemic. Yep. But that wasn't all I did, so I had other songs that were kind of in the can. Right. And, but I didn't want to take, they're a little bit more conducive to groups of musicians, as opposed to being able to really piecemeal it out. And, I go in and make a guitar part, and then another day a bass guy comes in, another day an organ guy, it's these songs on the new album are going to be a little bit more conducive to a band, a pure band operation. So it's a lot easier to do, and it's a lot more fun when you do bands and you're kind of all in the same place at the same time. So hopefully that's allowed, right? So yeah.
So the next set of recordings you're looking at doing it more like live, as a live recording?
Yeah, it'll be a mix. It'll be a mix. I think that one of the things that I did during the quarantine time was, is I did a whole bunch of those live stream things, mm-hmm. And a lot of the fans, really kind of liked that. They said it's kind of cool to hear the songs, just the way they were written, you and a guitar. I just did them here in my house, and they really liked that. So I think that on this new project, I've got some songs that would really be conducive to that environment, to just me and a guitar, then maybe add a little bit later on, for embellishment or whatever. And I think that it'll be kind of a mix like that. We'll go from, probably a pure, solo acoustic gig all the way through, the full band production and, orchestration and all that stuff. So that's kind of my thought. We'll see how it all goes. Once it's one thing to play them at home. And to work them out and get them all figured out, but it's another thing to play them in the studio and then hear them. Yeah. And then you go, oh, well, that might be cool if, or, oh, man, wouldn't strings sound good on that? Or, man, we need a choir on this song. You never know. Right. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I've really been interested in talking about the last few weeks, and it's been kind of a fun conversation, is the amount of songs that get left on the cutting room floor, so to speak. So like when you go into the studio and just kind of like for this last EP that you worked on during COVID, you had the 4 songs, but how many songs did you leave off the album, or had you been working on prior to that just didn't make it or were in consideration, like however you want to interpret it?
Yeah, so that's a really cool question, by the way. So when we did the EP, I think you and I have talked, and folks that know me know that one of the things that I think is really cool about being a singer-songwriter is you're not locked into a genre. you can play whatever the heck you want to play. You know, if you want to play rock, if you want to play blues, if you want to play folk, if you want to play country, whatever. And on the EP, we did that on purpose, right? So of the 4 songs, there's I happen to have it right here. There's 4 songs on the album and on the EP, and the first one, More Than Meets the Eye, is really a rocker. I mean, it's almost like 70s rock anthem kind of stuff, you know, a lot of lead guitars and, you know, screaming stuff and, you know, tempo changes, you know, and all this stuff. And it was a rocker. And then the 1,000 Wild Horses is what I would call really an Americana song, because it's not quite country and it's not quite folk and it's not quite rock. So they call that Americana, whatever that means. And then I did the World's Foremost Authority on Everything, right? Which was it's a fun kind of, you know, tongue-in-cheek kind of song. And I actually played a banjo on it, and it's pure country. I mean, it is pure country. And then the title cut, Who Are You, Who Am I, is really it's folk music, you know. It's, you know, a real soft, pretty, lovey-dovey, you know, that kind of stuff, right? And we did that on purpose because you know, the EP, you know, is only going to have 4 songs. Well, I wanted it to be really diverse and show that, you know, how diverse a songwriter can be. You know, you could go from rock to country to folk to what the guys in the studio call belly rubbing music, which is the really pretty stuff. You know, you could do that because you're a songwriter and you're not locked into, you know, a genre, you know. So let's say you're a country guy, you know, and you don't necessarily write your own music, right? They're going to find songs that sound like the last song you had, and you're going to kind of get locked in that box, you know. Even a lot of rock bands are that way, you know. When you hear a rock band, you know, you want to hear the songs that you're familiar with and that genre, and you know, screaming guitars and, you know, kick over the amplifier and all that stuff, right? The singer-songwriters have the ability to not do that. And so I've always done that on all my projects, but we wanted to use the EP to really, really highlight that. And so it really is 4 completely different, not even close to each other genres. And we had a lot of fun with it, to be honest with you. Yeah, to go that diverse. Yeah.
How many songs were when you were kind of whittling down for the EP, how many songs were in the running? How many songs did you kind of leave on the cutting room floor for that?
Probably 15.
15?
Yeah, you might hear them on the next album, just saying. But yeah, you know, there's some songs that just aren't conducive to being recorded. You know, sometimes you write a song and it's either too personal or, you know, some reason that you really don't want to throw it out there to the world, right? And some songs just suck, you know, just to be honest with you, you know. So then not everything that you write is going to be golden, you know. That's just the way it is. So it may sound really cool and it may feel cool when you're writing it. You may think you really got something going on, but then you sit back and listen to it and you go, really? I don't think that's going to make it. You know, we've all got, you know, I've got file folders and file cabinets full of those songs, right? That, you know, for whatever reason, they just don't fit, you know, they don't fit, or maybe they're not good enough, or, you know, yeah. So, yeah, there's always a lot, you know. You don't just like write 12 songs and then go put those 12 songs on the album. That's not how it works.
Very rarely does it work out like that, unless you're running with the concept of writing to a specific album. And then that way you can kind of be a little bit more conservative with your writing and whatnot. But even then, there's still going to be songs that aren't good enough for the album or don't fit the album or whatever. Yeah.
And that's one of the hard things for a lot of songwriters to do, is to take them and throw them in the trash. You know, I don't ever throw them in the trash. I just put them in a file folder, you know, and I never look at them again. Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're kind of like your kids, you know, they're like your babies, and, you know, you wrote it, you did it for a reason, and, you know, you don't want to see it go away. But not every song is really designed to be out there for the world to hear. So pick a reason, you know, millions of reasons.
Yeah, for sure. So you're getting ready to go back into the studio. You said March, right?
Hmm.
Well, how does it feel to be getting back into the studio, or what's kind of going through your mind as you prepare to go back into the studio?
It's like work,
Yeah.
you know. It's one thing to have all these cool ideas, and sit down and pin out the song, right? It's another thing to get that song ready to be recorded. That's kind of the real work. You got to do, all the stuff. You got to make sure that the structure's right, and the key changes are right, and all this stuff. And then you have to document that, right? You can't just go in and say, "Hey guys, listen to this, let's play it." That's not how it works, right? So you get into the real work, is what I call it. There's math involved in theory, and all that stuff. And so it's work, but it's fun work. It beats the hell out of what I did in the corporate world, right? I'd much rather do that than sit down and work through music stuff that I would do and what I did for all those years. But yeah, it's real work, but it's fun. You've been in studio environments and the creativity that can come from the other folks that you're working with, whether it be a producer or engineer or another musician or whoever. Sometimes it's the dude. To give you an example, on the tune 1,000 Wild Horses, I thought I was done. I thought I was done with that song. And I have a very, very small group of people that I use as listeners, right? Here's the new thing. What do you think? Does it make sense? Do you get it? And one of those people, not a musician at all, right? Mm-hmm. But he came up and he said, I really think that if you guys added some mandolin into that song, it'd be really cool. Well, I've never recorded with a mandolin before. It never occurred to me, but I thought, I wonder what this is going to be like, right? Yeah. So we brought a guy in, and he was a hell of a mandolin player, and we loved it, and it really put a little icing on the cake. So, but from a completely non-musician, cat. So, you never know, to me, that's what's always fun, is all that input that you get, from different people. And you might have a line in a song that to you is, it's just makes perfect sense. Yeah. It's logical, it's reasonable, all that stuff. And then somebody will listen to it and they go, what is that about? And then you got to go, well, maybe it's just reasonable to me. Maybe I should look at that and make it a little cleaner, Yeah. So.
I go through that all the time. In my day job, I do commercial production and local business promotions and stuff like that. And I'll have a line in a script or something that I think is absolutely genius. And then I pass it off to somebody else and they're like, this line makes no sense. What does this mean?
Yeah.
But just look what I did here. And it's like,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Every now and then I'll write some line and I'll think, oh my God, this is like magic poetry. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those guys, when I write it, I was liken it to cooking a stew. Right. Mm-hmm. So you get all the parts, you get the meat and the potatoes and the carrots and the celery, and all the parts, right? And that's kind of what I have written down in my notebook, mm-hmm. As a song, right? Yeah. It's all the parts. But you got to put them all together and let them go for a bit, Yeah. So one of the things that I do, and I do it on purpose, is when I write something, I'll work through it and get it to some level of complete, mm-hmm. right? And then I don't look at it for a week. I just walk away, try not to even think about it. Yeah. And then I come back and look at it and go, really, Bill? Really? That's what you got? Really? So, that's the way it works.
Yeah. Especially when you're writing by yourself, that's got to be the easiest way to do it, because you put it together as you feel in the moment. You set it aside, do your best to forget about it. Come back a week later and you've got a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
Even if you can't get the song, the writing out of your head for that week, it's still a fresh perspective, because you're not going to recall it word for word. It's going to be still pretty fresh in your head, but
Yeah. Well, one of the little tests that I do, particularly with choruses, because in the chorus is where you have the hooks, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't remember that chorus that I wrote 3 days later, it's probably not a good course.
Yeah.
It should be rememberable. It should be memorable to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's I 100% agree. 100% agree. So, but one thing that's changed since the last time we talked, right? You retired since, like, I know you're retired now, but were you retired last time we talked?
I think if we talked last March, I was pretty freshly retired. So I retired in November of 2020.
Okay, gotcha. So
After 43 and a half years of doing my thing, my corporate gig. And I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary not too long ago, which was pretty spectacular, by the way.
Yeah.
But anybody that I'm a fan of this whole retirement thing. I'm just here to tell you, you hear people say, well, what are you going to do when you're retired? Because I worked, I mean, like everybody else, and I traveled all over the world and did all that kind of stuff, and worked 16, 18 hours a day, it's like 7 days a week, and people are like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right. Well, now I'm doing what I do.
Yeah.
It gives you more time. I have found that I'm lazy. I'm getting a little bit lazy with some of the stuff, so I have a schedule, that I try to adhere to every day that gets me till about noon, and, it involves, I have one of these Peloton bikes. Do you have this?
No.
This Peloton, it's freaking addictive. It's an addictive thing. It's really good for you, and I'm healthy and, life is good and, but it's addictive. And so, I have this schedule where I get up and have a cup of coffee and do some Peloton. And then, after I get done with that, I'll play my guitar for an hour or two, and that's usually sometime around noon, 1 o'clock when I'm done with that. There's the work now. Yeah, there's the work. But, and then, it's kind of like, well, what am I going to do the rest of the day? I will guarantee you that I have the cleanest closets on the planet. My closets are unbelievably organized. I've stopped short of barcoding them, for inventory management. But so, you just do that kind of thing, and of course, with our friend Miss COVID, get out, it's so awful much, and so, so I found that I think, well, I don't really have that much to do. Hell, I'll just do that tomorrow. And that was never part of who I was, and so sometimes, you get that extra cup of coffee and find that extra little adrenaline, and then get stuff done. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad retired just a little over 2 years ago, or he was like forced into retirement and whatnot. And he's just now starting to kind of find his groove because he was forced retired due to some health issues. And then everything with my mom. And now it's just kind of finally that time where he's like, all right, I can go do something. But he's one of those guys where he doesn't like to just sit there. He's got to be going all the time, which is fine. Keeps you healthy, keeps you active, keeps you all this stuff. But it's like, Dad, just relax. Like, you're fine. And it's very entertaining just seeing it from my perspective. Completely different side of the world, I guess, like not having to deal with them on a daily basis. But
you should tell him the story that my dad told me when he retired. So my dad was the very hard working guy, and was very, had a great career and all that, right? And when he retired, he was also throughout his career very task driven, right? Yeah. He'd make a list, he taught me this. You make a list of what you got to do that day, and you get the list done. That's what you do, right? And so as the day goes on, you just check the boxes. Okay, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that, right? And my dad told me that for him, retirement was he was in jest actually when he said this, but he said retirement was one of the most frustrating times of his life because he got up every day and he didn't have anything to do, and when he went to bed that night he was only half done. So there you go.
Yeah, that's
half done with nothing.
Yeah, so. For sure. It's because like my dad ended up going to, in retirement, he ended up going back to work. And it's like, okay, so you're not really retired? He's like, no, I'm going to, since he was forced into retirement, and now he can kind of work. He's like, no, I'm going to go work and I'm going to leave on my terms. That went, because my dad's a pilot. So, like medical and all that stuff. And so he lost his medical, and now they're,
Excuse me.
oh, you're good.
No. He's giving me a look like I'm going to do it anyway. So
that's
he's like, you're wired into your computer. I could do anything I want to do now. So
yeah. For sure. That's so funny. But so now he's just kind of on this mission to retire on his own terms. So it's, it's like, I get it. And he's worked every day since he was like 14. So I 100% get it. When you've been working for 50 some odd years, it's like, yep, makes sense. So
yeah, I find that sometimes I kind of drop back into that mode, right? And I always work pretty long hours.
Yeah.
I always did. Yeah. And I had a day a couple of weeks ago that I got up in the morning and I had some things to do, right?
Yeah.
And I started doing those things. And of course, it's just stuff around the house, very domestic stuff, and, one thing leads to another, to another, to another, to another, right? And the next thing I know, I look up and it's 9:30 at night. I've been working all day long and I haven't had anything to eat. I didn't even stop to eat. I was just going,
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm glad I don't do that every day now.
Yeah. For sure. Well, because I find myself doing that. It's like, especially when I'm like really going at work, it'll be like 7:30 and I haven't eaten anything all day and I barely had anything to drink. And I get home and it's like, man, just everything hurts. What's going on? And I go and I drink some water, and I drink like five 16-ounce glasses of water. And it's like, oh, it's because I'm so dehydrated right now.
Yeah.
I've just been going and going at work. So
yeah. Well, if you had a Raiders cup, right, you would find that drinking water was a lot more palatable. You do it more often. So you need to get you got a Bears cup?
It's a Salukis cup.
No, there you go.
Yeah. My Bears cup's in the dishwasher. It got retired after the season. So yeah. I need to get myself a White Sox cup. That's the only one I don't have. And then my trifecta of sports teams will be complete.
No, there you go. I have only Raiders stuff, but I do have the Chiefs won last weekend, and there was they had I don't know if you watched the game, but there was this whole thing where they were behind with 13 seconds left, and it was dire. The world was coming to an end, right? And Andy Reid, their coach, said that when things are really grim, be the grim reaper. He told this to Mahomes, right? Well, you could only imagine, that after they won the game, this thing exploded all over Kansas City. And my grandsons and kids are all big fans. They're all really into it. And so one of the things that I did today was I went and got them all these custom Grim Reaper Kansas City Chiefs shirts so they can all wear them at the game on Sunday. So there you go.
You don't sound too happy about that, though.
No, it's all good. I enjoy it, and they have fun with it, so it's all good,
Gotcha.
The Raiders are out now, so, I'm full-time Chiefs fan. I'm a Chiefs fan anyway. I enjoy the Chiefs, but the Raiders are more of my heart. I've been a Raider fan since I was a baby, so.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I feel like I felt the distaste when you had to say Kansas City Chiefs. I just felt that distaste for it.
Well, to be honest with you, Kansas City was really bad for a really long time, and I used to call them the Kansas City Chokes, but now that they win, I can't call them that anymore. So they're now the Chiefs, and sometimes I understand that I may say that maybe with not the most love, but they're good and they're fun to watch. So yeah.
Everybody's trying to get me to get back into basketball, and it's like, it's not going to happen, guys. It's football. Football's easy for me to watch because it's one day a week, and when it comes to my sports, it's ease to watch and pay attention. So football, I can watch every game one day a week. I'm good. Baseball, that's a bit of a time commitment, but I don't have to see every game. Like I can literally, there's enough games where if I catch maybe 1 or 2 a week, I still know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm good. Like they're not playing more than 2 series a week. So
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm not a big basketball fan, never have been. Both of my kids played ball. My son played Division I college baseball. My daughter played Division I college softball. I've seen baseball games, and I don't mean a little bit. I mean, I've seen a lot of them, and so I really don't pay much attention in baseball season until the All-Star break, and then things get interesting. But but as far as football goes, the Chiefs game, this legendary Chiefs game, that I'm sure is now going to be live in infamy and all that, right? Yeah.
Well, because now
I've watched it 3 times. I've watched it 3 times this week, start to finish, the whole game. So it's a fun game to watch.
Well, because the thing about the Chiefs is you don't give Mahomes a chance to score because he's going
exactly. Yeah.
And then what I found very interesting was I was listening to the radio and they were making this huge issue about Mahomes' wife, girlfriend, fiance, whatever it is, showering a bunch of people with champagne that didn't want to get showered with champagne.
Yeah. So here's my philosophy on that. Okay. A lot of that is, blown up in social media and all that, right? Yeah. And so
I didn't catch the game. So
I'll demonstrate here the correct technique on how to manage that kind of social media stuff. You ready?
Yeah.
All you got to do is watch my thumb. Ready? Just keep going like that. And it all goes away. You don't have to pay attention to it.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah, scroll past it. Yeah.
It is what it is. But, that is the one thing I love about football because from week 1 to week 17, you never know what's going to happen. Like the Miami Marlins, they're a prime example. They go 0-8, I think they went, and then they win the 8 of their last 9 games.
Yeah.
And they're playoff hunt.
Yeah. It's like the movie itself, on any given Sunday, man, any given Sunday, because, good teams, bad teams, those are still the best football players on the planet, that are out there. They may be on a bad team, but they can still play. Just say it, so
the NFL is one of those games, or football is one of those games where 99% of the players are the elite of the elite.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not in the right system, or look, the big thing is they're not in the right system.
Yep.
So
yeah. So, even I even love to watch college football. So it's an obsession for me. And that's why it's, I mentioned earlier that I'm lazy. I could probably doing a lot more music stuff right now than I am. Yeah, but it's football season. So, and I'm retired and I like football. So that's what I do. Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be touring back in the summer. Like hopefully things are back normal. So wait till March, and then you'll start working.
Yeah. I'll start working on it, and then we'll find out what's going on, maybe.
Yeah.
And then go from there. But I'm not so old yet. I know that there's a lot of gray in my beard. I understand that. But I'm not so old yet, and I can still tour. So I still probably got 5 years in me, so I'm good. Nice. I'm like Tom Brady. I'm just going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Right.
And depending on how you tour, like if you're touring with a full band or if you keep it more stripped back, touring's really not like, the more stripped back it is and the less you got to rely on other people, you can make it as easy or as complex as you want to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's plenty of musicians that I know that it's just them in their car. They go from town A to town B, and they just do their tour. And that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, well, what I do, and what I've done in the past is kind of that. My favorite thing ever is the tour solo. Okay. I love playing solo shows.
Yeah.
Love it. Right. But you can't just do that. So typically on every tour, I'll have, a few full band shows, depending on the venue and, all that, full band shows and, really dial it up and produce it up and have a good time. And then, go back and do another couple of weeks of solo and then another big one. And that seems to be kind of a nice balance because you're not, you don't have the stress of, the tour buses and all the gear and all the stuff, that you got to worry about every day, so, you can get kind of a couple of weeks off and just go, play a few shows a week and then meet back up with the guys at a big venue and do that one and then kind of redo it all over again. So it's a nice balance. That's what I like to do. Yeah.
For sure. We're, looking at an opportunity to take Live and Amplified on some sort of a tour. I'm going to put it in quotes. I've been playing around with this idea of doing live podcasts in front of audiences just to get it out there and treat it more like a people keep calling it a writer's round, but I don't feel like that's an accurate description. I feel like it's more of a open mic kind of scenario. So basically, we'll sit here, like it'll be a conversation like this, and then we'll bring up a musician, they'll play a song, we'll talk about the song. So it'll be basically of like 9 or 10 mini podcasts, kind of.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that would be kind of interesting and just kind of going from one town to the next town and just, because my dad, being the businessman that he is, he's like, you got to start making money. And I'm like,
yeah, that whole money thing. That's a big deal. Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah, making money. Yeah.
I mean,
you know what I've always enjoyed since you brought that up. And I've thought about this a little bit, so say I do a solo show, all right? It's an hour and a half. It's a concert, and so here the audience is primarily just sitting there listening to me play, tell stories, talk about the songs and all that. Mm-hmm. But how much more interesting could that be if there were someone like you, right, sitting up on stage going, Bill, I just heard this line in the song. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
See, that would be fun, really kind of interactive. Yeah.
Well, what would make it really interesting, because the way I kind of picture it in my head, hopefully it would be a lot of really good musicians, but, just being in that moment of, okay, they're good and they're on versus not on. And then we can kind of talk about the performance itself. So like, let's say you come on, we're in Kansas City, you come on and you have a performance and for whatever reason, you just weren't on your A game and I can sense it, or me and the co-host or whatever can sense it. We could talk about that. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of gives it this different dynamic of more of the human element, because it's not that you're a bad musician. It's just,
yeah, the only real challenge I'd have with that, Tom, since you use me as an example, is I'm always on my A.
Yeah.
I never have a bad day.
Gotcha. Fair. But you get what I'm talking about, where it's just like the musician, they just drove 14 hours because they were running late, or, like whatever it is, just kind of adding that human element, and only having to perform one song and not having to worry about building an entire set. It just, there's a lot of angles we could pull with it. And I've talked to a few people that are interested in helping us do at least a proof of concept so we can take it around and, figure it out. So hopefully by the end
of this year. If you need any volunteers, I'm your boy. You just let me know. Yep. I'm there for you. It's not like I got much else going on, man. So,
I got you. Yeah. I got you. It's, I have this dream of just getting on the road. The only issue is a lot of my support staff, they're married with kids and all this stuff. But it's like, I'm the carefree bachelor and I'm ready to go somewhere. And they're like, oh, let me clear it with my wife. Let me
Uh-huh.
make sure we got something to do with the kids, you know, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, carefree trip it is. But it's,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
one of the nice things that I'm looking forward to with the next tour, because I did my tours, when I was still, in the corporate gig. I did my tours while I was on vacation,
yeah, yeah,
and I'd been there for forever, and I had a lot of vacation,
yep.
but you tried to pack, as many quality shows in as you can,
Yeah.
in 2 months, say, for example, and it'd be kind of nice to not have to say, God, I need to play 4 shows this week. Just not have to do that, just go out and play a couple of shows and look around and enjoy America and all the cool stuff that America has to offer. That'd be fun for me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's one of my biggest regrets is of all the traveling we've done over the last 5 years is we didn't stop to enjoy, like we didn't take into consideration where we were at and stop to enjoy it a little bit more. Like we've been up to Salt Lake City, we've been through Moab, and we didn't hardly see any of the like cool places. We didn't see the Great Salt Lake, it's just like, dang it, we probably should have taken an hour and gone,
Yeah. But it's hard to do when you're working, man. So, I know that in all those years, I traveled extensively, all over the globe, and I would always try, because I know that during the week, right, I'm not going to have time to do anything. I'm going to work and eat and sleep. That's what I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
And so what I try to do is stay over, a couple of weeks, and get a weekend or 2 in there. To spend some time going out and seeing, castles and, all the stuff like that, and really enjoy where I was at. And I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to do that. And that's some pretty cool stuff. Makes some nice memories. Yeah,
for sure. And then I've also had this thought of once COVID kind of passes, getting a job that allows me to work remote, because that seems to be like the really big thing right now is a lot of jobs are going remote, and especially in the promotion and the video editing side of life, you could pretty much do that anywhere. And so my hope is to really find a job that lets me go remote. And if I want to go live in the UK for 6 weeks or 2 months, or, like whatever the passport laws are, like however long you can stay there without having to have a visa and whatnot. I'd like to do that. Just go stay there for 3 months. Go to Australia for 3 months,
Yeah.
So
I had a thing this summer, or I had to go to Nashville for a couple of days, and decided that while I was down there, I was going to go spend some time in the Smoky Mountains, someplace that I'd never been, and I like to hike, and get out and do stuff like that. And I was hiking one day, and I had driven to the top of this mountain, and I ran across this really odd looking van. I mean, it looked like a rolling piece of technology, There were satellite dishes and stuff. And I thought, while I'm walking by, I met the folks that lived in this van, and literally they were 2 young folks. They were married, both of them had full-time careers as, project managers, coders, whatever. Right. And they worked remote, and they lived in this van, and they traveled all over the United States, and that's how they lived. And I just thought how cool that is, that technology is giving folks that kind of opportunity. So pretty cool.
For sure. And you're there long enough, you're able to stay in places long enough that, okay, yeah, during Monday through Friday, you may not be able to get out and go to the places you want to go. But if you stay there for 2 or 3 weeks, you could go check out on the weekends or whatever it is, on off days, downtime, and it's not a huge rush. So
there's some interesting costs that are associated with that. I was asking them about this, right? Yeah. I said, well, you guys are working remote, and they're into big systems, like systems that I helped design and stuff, when I was doing the corporate gig. And I said, you guys are really relying heavily on wireless technology. Mm-hmm. And they said, yeah. And I said, well, what if you get someplace where there is no wireless? And he says, we have 4 different wireless services. we have Wi-Fi. Any place that we want it, we have it,
Nice.
So 4 different ones. Like I got Google Fiber. That's my world, right? They got 4 of those.
Yeah. They've
So.
got Google Fiber. They've got, I 100% get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like when they're doing that, that's what they got to do, right?
Yeah, that's their job, man. They got to do it.
For sure. Yeah. So, for those of you that are just joining us, this is a music podcast. We've gone, but I've talked to Bill so much over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, that it just ends up kind of going wherever it goes, and I'm cool with it. So I really enjoy talking to you all the time. And just kind of over the last year, as you've been kind of going through your retirement, working on the EP, it's been really awesome to see the growth and everything you're doing. And the other day I started watching the stuff on your YouTube. It looked like an interview style thing. There were like a bunch of shorter videos.
Yeah, there's a company that I've been working with that I hate social media. I hate it. I'm not a fan at all. But it's a necessary evil in today's world, right? And so I thought, well, I wonder, what a true social media expert person would do, right? For some cat like me, and so they came in and they said content is king, and so we sat down and we did those interviews along with a bunch of other stuff. But those interviews, it was actually kind of fun because Tom, you'll appreciate this. I mean, I do hundreds of interviews, about music, all the time, every year. And after a while, there's not too many surprises. You're not going to be asked a question that you haven't been asked before. Well, these folks were not musicians.
Yeah.
They're marketing and social media folks, right? And they asked me some of the most unique questions that, because they said, well, do you want to see our questions so you can prepare your answers? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I mean, I do this all the time, Surely I could be ready. But yeah, they asked me some really, really interesting questions. And it was kind of a cool environment, really, because they were looking at things from a completely different perspective than I certainly do, and a different perspective than most folks that are in the quote music world, would talk about. And they're pretty. The whole interview, I don't know, it's about an hour long or something, and it's out on my YouTube channel. But they parsed it up into little, for social media, because we don't have that attention span, right? They parsed it out into these small little pieces of these really kind of unique and intriguing questions. And it was really a lot of fun. It was fun. It's a good time.
Nice. Yeah, I was starting to go through them the other day, and it was like I definitely could tell that they weren't musicians because they were kind of asking different, unique questions, which is really cool, and it's a good way to do things. And it's like we talked about earlier about building the more human side of things, because I think that's like as you're a musician and building a fan base and a following, that's what people would really connect to, is just knowing that you're not a robot that just performs 3 hours a night every night of the week. How a lot of musicians are right now. They're just bam, 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 hitting 3 hours a night every night for forever. So
that was kind of their idea. And so it was interesting to me because they got into my feelings. This is not something that most guys are used to talking about, and certainly not comfortable talking about. How did you feel when this happened? How did you feel when you wrote this song? And I'm going, what do you mean? How did I feel? So it was fun. It was interesting, and a challenging thing, but it was a lot more personal, right? Than a lot of interviews would be. So
for sure, it's you need that stuff, like I'd mentioned a little bit ago. Yeah, I was going to say your dog's right behind you.
There he is. There's the warp right there. Yeah. He feels left out. Actually,
Yeah.
he's probably thinking, "How it's about bedtime, Bill." So there you go.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But we won't keep you too much longer here. The one thing that I did bring up right when we first met is you're not in your usual room, which is in wall-to-wall guitars and
Yeah.
stringed instruments, essentially. I won't just because I know there's more than guitars on your wall. Have you added anything new to your collection in the last year?
No, but to be honest with you, I'm not far from it. I buy a new guitar every time I do a new project because I find that a new guitar gives me some new inspiration.
Yeah.
Right. And tomorrow actually is my birthday.
Oh,
and
happy
so,
birthday.
Thank you. So I'm thinking about maybe buying myself a pretty nice little birthday present, but I haven't done it yet. And as you probably know from the guitars you saw on the wall, you don't get those at Guitar Center, so they're a little pricey. So yeah, so I'm thinking about doing that, and maybe next time we talk, I'll have a new one that you could look at. But the newest addition to the wall is the banjo.
Yeah, I think I remember the banjo because
I had the banjo, something that I did in my youth to impress a girl's dad. Actually, I learned how to play the banjo, and I played it on one song on this World's Foremost Authority of Everything song. Yeah, and he looks cool hanging on the wall. I'm pretty sure I haven't played him since I made that recording, but he still looks cool. Yeah.
for sure. So who do you usually go through for your guitars? Do you have a local guitar shop that isn't Guitar Center, or will you go to like a luthier? And
yeah, the answer is yes. So there's a couple of guitar stores around, like in Nashville, there's Groom Guitars, it's a legendary thing, and they have really high end, really nice stuff.
Yeah.
There's another place up in Wisconsin, in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I think it's called Dick's Guitars, maybe, or Don's Guitars, something like that. And they've got really nice inventory of cool stuff. Yeah. And then there's several places around the United States that really focus on the older, more unique kind of instruments, and I have some pretty weird ones. My 9-string guitars they're unique, they're kind of weird, and most of my guitars are pretty old, and so I'll spend some time looking at that. But what I don't have, Tom, is a classical guitar, and that may be what I get next, but we'll find that out later.
We'll see how it plays out tomorrow as you kind of search.
Yeah. So classical guitar is actually what I learned to play on, so I learned all the Bach and Beethoven, all that junk, and they have their place. They're limited, right? Yeah. And what you can do with them, but they have their place. But on a couple of the songs on Crossroad Creek, and on one of the songs on the You Are You, Who Am I used the classical for the lead parts. Oh, wow. Because it made the cool sound, the sound that I was looking for. So I may need one of those.
For sure. Sounds like it. Worf sounds like he's ready to go to bed. So
Worf is playing with a friend, so one of his buddies is over tonight, and they're now playing tug of war with a towel out of my bathroom. So
amazing.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
gotcha.
He knows when Dad's wired to the computer, he could pretty well get away with murder. So murder's what he's doing. Hey, boys, stop it. Good boys.
Be good. We're almost done. Prophecy. Oh, that's really cool. There's a vintage guitar shop that I watched. They put up YouTube videos called Norm's Guitars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar. So
a little bit. Yeah. You got to make sure you bring your checkbook.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but they got great stuff, and they do such a good job, So yeah, that'll be one of the places that I go for sure.
Yeah, because like they do vintage and then like stuff that's owned by like celebrities and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
what is it? Guitars that have been played by like world-renowned musicians, or is it like the same guitar? It's like, oh, this is the guitar that Hendrix.
They have the ones that were actually played by the real musicians and owned by the musicians for the most part, But that's one of the things that I'm a little concerned about, Tom, because my affinity for guitars, right?
Yeah,
And if I'm on tour, right, and I'm not playing 4 nights a week,
Yeah.
and then trying to rest up the other 3 days a week, right?
Yeah.
I may find a guitar store, and that may be the most expensive tour ever in the history of man. So I have to be kind of cognizant of that.
Yeah. For sure. Well, hopefully you find the right guitar, the one you want, and it'll be perfect, and it'll be great for the next album. So
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, I think the next album, it'll be more along the lines probably of the Cross Willow Creek album, where it's pretty diverse across the board, different kinds of songs and different kinds of sounds. So I'm looking forward to getting in the studio and taking some of these pencil scratchings that I've got and turning them into something that y'all want to hear. So that'd be fun.
sure. So you're still very pen to paper when it comes to writing music?
Oh yeah. I'm old school. It's a bit like a puzzle, man, like putting together a puzzle, so I have different thoughts and ideas, and they come to me at random times, and there'll be little, Post-it notes or a piece of paper, or this notebook or that notebook, or, a text that I sent to myself, or sometimes it's a voice memo that I'll send to myself. If I'm out and about doing something and I get an idea, I get this use the voice memo technology. And then at some point I sit down and start trying to put all this together, like a puzzle, really, this thought, that thought, this thought, that thought, this matches that thought, that, and that's when it gets fun. But that, to me, that's pen to paper stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I get, because that I'm pretty adamant about writing the lyrics first when I do music, and so once I get something that's reasonable, it may not be in lyric form, once I get something reasonable, then I'll go into the technology stuff and cut and paste and do all that stuff that you could do with processors and that kind of thing. But for the most part, I start pen and paper. So to give you an idea, hold on.
Make sure you're not giving away any of the secrets.
Well, yeah. Yeah, something like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you even see that with the lights and all that?
No,
Yeah.
not really, but
Yeah, well, it's a bunch of lines, right?
Yeah.
That are just written on a piece of paper, and some of them have question marks after them. Some of them are marked through. Some of them are underlined. Those are the ones that I like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just it's a process. So.
Yeah, for sure. It's and it everybody's got their thing that works for them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, it's like if you do pen to paper, it's right there in front of you and it's not going anywhere. Whereas for me, if I put something on my phone in the notes pad or whatever, the second that I move on to the next sheet, it's gone. Like I'm not going back to find it. Whereas pen to paper, it's right there. I may have to go back a page, but it's physically in front of me. I don't know.
Well, to give you an idea, there's a song that'll be on the new project that's called Hideaway. Okay, is the name of the song. And it's a text message that I sent to myself with an idea 3 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. So, you just never know. Right?
Perfect. But once again, I want to thank you so much for jumping on here and chatting. I hear the dogs riling up again. So little bit.
They're probably looking for something to eat. You know, they're dogs. I don't know if you saw Worf, but he's not afraid of a cheeseburger. So, you know, he likes to eat. So.
I've seen the photos on your Facebook page. So
yeah. He's Worf is a celebrity unto himself. He's almost he's his own entity. Hey,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but Doc, really, thanks so much for having me again. And you know, it's always a great conversation. And the thing that I like about it is we don't sit here and I don't quote you lyrics all night long and that kind of thing. You know, we actually have a conversation, which is fun.
It just kind of flows naturally. So
yeah. So when I get the project up and rolling, maybe we do it again. It'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody wants to check out the EP and anything else you got going on, where's the best place for them to do that?
Home base is my website, billabernathy.com. On there, you can find essentially everything that you want to find, you know, that iTunes and Amazon and, you know, all the places where all the music is. And you can get hard copies if you're that person. Right there from my website. And, you know, I think I told you this before, but anytime anybody orders hard copy stuff from my website, I really appreciate it. And they get personalized and all that. So that's the best place to go. And then, of course, there's links to all the social media stuff, you know, that we have going on out there. So the website, billabernathy.com, that's just a really good home base to go find out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. It's been a blast. Can't wait to do it again. Hopefully closer towards the end of the year once the new project's ready to go. So
I'm ready for you to come to KC and interview me in the middle of a concert. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it going. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like the money is always going to be an issue, but you know, one of these days we'll get it squared away. I'm hoping by July we'll have like the first one, like the proof of concept done, and then we'll just kind of do one every other week or so, or one a month, you know, like whatever we can get. And then hopefully by 2023, we can just kind of really kick it into full gear. So,
yeah. Well, just always remember, you know, I'm retired. So you don't have to come to me. If you want to do it, I'll come to you. I'm just that easy.
Gotcha.
Plus, I kind of like Texas. So.
Well, right now, because we're kind of spread out. For whatever reason, I'm really interested in what Memphis has to offer.
Oh yeah, cool.
Just, you know, I've met a lot of really talented musicians in Memphis, and it's just like that seems like they'd support an idea like this at least once. So
yeah. No, I think it's a cool idea. I'm in. Just let me know.
Yep,
you got my number. Yeah,
for sure. I do. Actually, it's funny when you called me asking for like the Zoom link and whatnot. I was like, oh yeah, I do have his number programmed in my phone. That's funny. So
yeah, that's good stuff.
It just popped up Bill Abernathy, and I'm like, what's up? So
we've done this before.
Yes, we have. So, but once again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast chatting with you. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later. Awesome. Cool. We're clear.